The EPP Instagram live page. We are here in Strasbourg this week and we are celebrating International Women's Rights Day. For those of you who don't know me, I am Regina Doherty. I'm one of the new EPP members, even though I'm here for 2 years now at this stage. And I'm here today to have a conversation with the absolute fierce campaigner that is Irish woman Jackie Fox. And so you're all very, very welcome. I'll invite anybody to ask us questions once we get the conversation going about the topic, which is an incredibly serious but really, really important topic about how we protect our children, not just only in real life, but in the virtual world that they all live in now. So Jackie, you're so welcome.
Thank you.
Just to let everybody know, Jackie presented to the full plenary today, which is really unusual because the only time we ever get guests into the Parliament is usually Prime Ministers of some, really important country. But actually I think you're probably the most important person that I've heard from in our plenary because your story is so real. So do you want to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, but tell us why you're here and about your beautiful daughter.
Okay, my name is Jackie Fox, and I just wanted to share who my daughter was. I've got two boys at home, and Nicole was my only little girl. She was funny, she was bubbly, she was so outgoing, she had a great personality. She was so cheeky at times. She was great in school. She was a wizard at maths. She loved maths and she wanted to be an accountant or something like that. She also wanted to do a lot of travelling, but unfortunately she never got to do any of these things. Nicole was my shadow. We did everything together, and growing up she had such a happy childhood. We spent so many years going down to a mobile home. We spent so many years on the beach crab fishing. They learned how to swim in the sea with their armbands on and then without their armbands. We did so much together. She was always with me all the time until things went wrong. Yeah.
So tell us, when did Nicole's journey start to have the difficulties, obviously, then that resulted in the awful outcome that happened a number of years later?
Right, so Nicole was 18 when this started. She couldn't wait to get to her first nightclub.
Was she finished in school now?
She was finished. She was finished in school, and she couldn't wait to get to her first nightclub. In the nightclub, she went out with her friends. She did what everyone else wanted to do. She had a couple of drinks, she was up dancing, she was laughing. But things took a change for the worse when this main girl, this bully, she liked one of Nicole's best friends, and the only way she could get closer to this best friend was to make friends with Nicole. But when she realised that the boy, he didn't want to be with the main girl, things changed. She turned on Nicole. But this main girl was a coward. She couldn't bully Nicole on her own. It's so much easier to pick on someone when you have a group behind you than it is to pick on someone on your own. So this girl got the group behind and just targeted Nicole so much with physical abuse and online abuse for 3.5 years. They always said that they were never going to give up or leave Nicole alone, and that they were going to beat her up so badly and leave her on life support. They got so deep into her head. They just never left her alone with the physical abuse. The physical abuse was bad enough, but it was the mental abuse that actually took Nicole away from me and destroyed her.
Can I ask you, as is the world that our children live in today, and the access, like my own are at home, their phone is never out of their hand. Is that the way it was with Nicole? And does that mean that they had access to her, I won't say 24/7, but as much as she was awake, there was no give up? You know, the way years ago, if you were being bullied, you'd go home to your safe space in your house. Like you mentioned earlier on today, that even when she was at home in her house, she'd go to her bedroom, that you assume was safe, but we now know it isn't safe because there's... Did she constantly feel like...
Yeah, the majority of the time, these people had access to Nicole's a way of getting to her through Facebook, Snapchat. TikTok wasn't around then, it's Facebook and Snapchat. And why did they have her? Because they were her friends. And the sheep and the followers that the main girl added in. They were once Nicole's friends, not her best friends or anything, but she knew them. So she would have them on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat and stuff like that. So it was easy access for them. A lot of time Nicole, she actually never replied to them. She only once ever replied to someone. She never replied to them. She never responded to them, and which was great, because I think if she did respond to them, that would have made it even worse again, because that's what they wanted. They wanted a reaction. They would have loved a reaction. These people, especially the main girl, bullied Nicole because of jealousy. They did it because of drama, the drama that it was creating, and they did it because they could, because there was nothing there to stop them from doing it, and they could do it if they want.
Did you see the direct impact that it was having on her life?
Yeah,
at the time.
Yeah, do you know, as I said, Nicole was bubbly. She was funny. She was all with me. And what was starting to happen was, she was starting to get distant. She wouldn't talk to me as much as she did. She would spend a lot of time in her room. She would watch Netflix. She would fall asleep during the day, and that's not Nicole. Nicole was so bubbly, so lively. She just, she loved life. But she was spending a lot of time in her room. She was crying herself to sleep every night, and she would wake up the next morning feeling just as sad as she did the day before. In her room, it started to get worse. It wasn't only the physical abuse and the mental abuse, now it was turned into self-harm. Nicole was never a bully. She never hurt anyone. She was just so kind and thoughtful, but she wasn't able to handle the physical abuse and the mental abuse. So she started self-harming in the bedroom, where she was, sticking her nails in her legs or her belly or her face, and sticking them in so deep where she bled. It was a huge impact that, as I said, the physical abuse was bad, but it was the mental abuse that took over Nicole even more. But the difference in Nicole was just,
you could see it.
She wasn't my little girl. She wasn't, and we did so much to try and get her back to Nicole, but she was gone at this stage. It was way too late. It was too far.
Do you think did she know what she was being subject to? Like, sometimes when you hear other young people, when you hear that they're self-harming, it's a way for them to have control over something in a world where they have no control over anything else. Did you feel that she knew what she was being subjected to, and that she thought it was wrong, she just couldn't fight it, or did she just
self-harm?
Yeah.
No, I think it was just the frustration. I think of every day getting up, either seeing these people that would beat her up. She couldn't even go to the shop, and if she ran into them, they would beat her up. I think it was the frustration of the online. It's not that she would even have thought it was wrong. It was just her way of getting the hurt out. I can only imagine. That's what it would be. She had to get the not anger, not frustration, just the hurt, the emotions out. Nicole was never an attention seeker. I'm not saying that everyone is, but she wouldn't have done that for a cry for help. Because we were helping her, we understood, we knew everything that was going on. She didn't have to prove that she was getting bullied or anything. I think it was just she couldn't handle the emotions of...
It was a release nearly.
Yeah, it just release. She didn't want to do things like that. It's just, she just found it very hard to cope with those emotions of what she was going through, yeah.
Tell me, and the audience, if you don't mind, about the day that you and your son came home. Obviously prompted the worst day in your life.
It was the worst day of my life. It was on the 18th of January. I had dropped one of my sons to work, and then I went on around to collect my 14-year-old son Lee from school. And when we got to the front door, Lee was standing this side of me, and we put the key in the door. And as I pushed the door open, Nicole had got her boxer dog. Bruce, she had put him up in the bedroom, And as we walked in, right in front of myself and her brother was Nicole had got the stepladder, and she had got the dog's lead, and she was hanging from the banisters in the hallway. I didn't scream, I didn't roar. It was like, the only way I can describe it, it's like a hell from the bottom of my stomach. It's a noise I've never heard before, and I never ever want to hear it again. I ran towards Nicole and I put my arms around her legs to try and lift her up a bit to get the weight off her neck. I screamed at Lee to help me. Lee ran halfway up the stairs and unhooked the dog's lead. Nicole was still alive, she was still breathing, she was still warm, and when the dog's lead was unhooked, I didn't feel Nicole coming down into my arm. She was like as light as a feather. I rang the ambulance crew, and while they were talking to me on loudspeaker, I just kept begging her, and I kept saying, please Babby, please just don't leave me, everything's going to be okay. The ambulance crew came and they worked on Nicole in the kitchen, and what seemed like forever, which I know it wasn't forever, Nicole was put into the back of an ambulance, and there she took a massive heart attack and died in the back of the ambulance. But the strong person that Nicole is, and they got Nicole's heartbeat back again. She didn't want to die. She tried her best to hold on. She every time she got beaten up, she changed her appearance to go back out again. But when we got to the hospital, the doctor told us that Nicole had got extensive brain damage, and her organs were going to start to shut down. And I stayed with her. That was on the 18th of January, and on the early hours of Saturday morning, the 20th of January, the nurse that was minding Nicole with me in intensive care, she came over and she just put her hand on my shoulder, and she just whispered to me really quiet, and she just said, "It's time." I knew. I always thought there was a hope, a chance that Nicole was coming home with me. But now I knew there wasn't a chance. I got up and I lay down on the bed beside Nicole, and I rubbed her cheek, I fixed her hair, and I remember I was kissing her cheek and I was holding her hand, and the very, very last words I got to say to Nicole before she died was, I remember saying to her, just let go, baby, because no one is ever going to hurt you again. No one is ever going to touch you again. And the very, very, very last words I got to say to my little girl was, "I love you, Coco Pops," because I used to call her Coco Pops, and I said, "I love you, Coco Pops," and then she died.
I can't imagine how you went from that devastating day to where you are today, because I know from your story already that you felt after you had buried her that you wanted some justice for her. And then obviously when you knew there wasn't any justice, you filled all of those gaps. What were the gaps when you went to the police after the funeral and after you'd put her to rest? What were the gaps in Irish law, in European law back then that you saw fit to put right?
First of all, we didn't bury her because Nicole was so close to me and such a Klingon, and we got her cremated because she was so close to me. I didn't want to leave her somewhere in the dark and in the cold all by herself, and so I took her home with me. And the gaps that were in Ireland were huge. There was nothing there. There was nothing to protect anyone from there was from online abuse, but not social media, not bullying. And there was huge gaps in the system. The guards actually came to me, and even though I had all the messages and the threats and the videos, the guards came to me and said, "Jackie, these people did nothing wrong." And they were 100% right by saying that, because in the lack of law or no law, they did nothing wrong. It wasn't until the law was brought out on the 9th of February 2021 that people could be punished. But back then, it just, there was nothing there to help.
So people. Obviously the whole like that generation of young people had started to live an awful lot of their life online, and the laws obviously hadn't caught up to what would have been illegal in the real world wasn't illegal online. So tell me, what did you do?
I decided to campaign. I decided to go with Nicole one night, and I was missing her so much. I was just missing everything about her. But to keep me here and to stop me from leaving my boys, I decided to campaign. I said, I'm going to make online bullying a criminal offence. It was a focus. It was a plan to get me up out of bed, not to stay in bed and cry for the rest of my life and do nothing about it. So what I did was I decided to campaign for this law. Regina, I hadn't got a clue what I was talking about. I didn't know how to bring a law, what to do. I could barely even spell my own name because my mind was so distraught after losing Nicole. I campaigned just with family and friends at this stage outside Leinster House in Dublin. I had a huge march through Dublin City where loads of people brought a little pink balloon in for Nicole. I travelled around the country to all different counties with my crew that was getting bigger and bigger, and with banners, and we'd stop outside each town and talk about Coco's Law and what I was trying to do. So I was getting people to listen to me. I had meetings upon meetings, I just kept going and going. But it was I think at that stage, because I put Nicole's story, and I know she's not a story, all over social media, and it was the people in Ireland at the time, they were messaging me saying, and they were saying, this is happening to my auntie, my uncle, my cousin, my daughter, my son, and they just came together. They started to protest with me and march with me, and the great power of social media when it's worked properly, it just got so much bigger and bigger, and and Coco's Law was getting more known. Traction. Yeah, the government were listening to me. They were talking about Coco's Law. They were talking about the legislation, and they were mentioning her name, and just kind of.
Tell me about, because I know it was a government piece of legislation that was eventually passed in that February 2021, but tell me the particular input of Brendan Howland, because I worked with Brendan for many years, and I think he's a gem, even though he doesn't come from my party. He listened to you when other people didn't. Tell me about that.
Do you know, I had meetings upon meetings, and I just kept getting turned away. It was like they just got my head, and they didn't want to know until Brendan Howland he got in touch with me, I think, and I had a meeting in his office. I cried my eyes out in his office, and he was so kind and so caring, and he just kept hugging me, and I said to him, there's two things I want. One is a legislation to make online bullying a criminal offence, and the other thing is it has to be called Coco's Law. I didn't want Nicole dead because of horrible, nasty cowards online. I needed her legacy. I needed something for her name to live on. Poor Brendan, he did say, he can work on the legislation, but he began to tell me that, Jackie, I can work on the law, but there's no other law in Ireland with a person's name. And I just said, stop. Don't even say that. There's two things I want. He was absolutely fantastic. He stuck by me all the way. He kept mentioning Coco's Law all the way. An absolute gentleman, and with the people were great, but could I have put it together or done what we done without Brendan? No, he's
very persuasive.
Yeah, he's one of my heroes.
Yeah, I'm only laughing when you mentioned that. I can nearly hear him explain it to you now, Jackie. I know I'll definitely do all this, but and actually, I mean, apart from the seismic achievement of leaving such a legacy for your beautiful daughter, it has never happened before in Ireland, and I'm not sure if it's happened in the rest of Europe either, that we've ever called, because they all love these big long falutin names that nobody ever remembers, but everybody in the country knows what Coco's Law is and who she is and why it's so important, and what you did.
They actually tried to take Coco's Law out of it, the name Coco out of it, and instead they called it the Online Harmful Harassment Communication Related Offence Bill. I struggle even saying that.
You still remember? You're probably the only one that does.
Because I actually got 2 of the words to it in the wrong way. But now it's basically known as Coco's Law, also referred to as the Online Harmful Harassment Communication Related. So it's Coco's Law is so much easier to remember that name, and it is a baby name. Do you know what I mean? It's so much easier to remember Coco's Law than that big. So I was nearly losing it. I was nearly losing Coco's name out
to
of it.
official Ireland. Yeah, you know, all of the officials that we talk about that work in back rooms have good intentions. But good for you. Good for you. Tell me now that it's passed, and actually I have to hand it to you, because apart from the fact that you are very shy about your achievements, I don't think anybody else, and I'm in politics nearly 20 years, I don't think I've ever seen anybody else take an idea from where you took it to the inception of the idea and the passing of the law in such a short space of time and get everything you want, right? So that's that's not
I
a
take
small
after
task.
my dad. I'm stubborn.
No, I
don't take no for an answer.
Tell me how it makes you feel that since the Act has been passed, hundreds of people have been able to use Coco's Law to make their lives better.
Do you know what? I always say when Coco's Law was passed, it was the biggest bitter sweet moment of my life. The sweet moment was, it's saving so many people's. I've heard so many, I've got so many letters, I've got so many Instagram, Facebook messages from people that it has saved, but I had to lose my daughter for other people to gain this law. And the sweet moment, or the bitter moment, was when the law was passed on the 9th of February 2021. I couldn't go home and say, guess what, Nicole? You're not going to believe what your ma's had to do today. You know, I couldn't go home. Why? Because she wasn't there, and she's never, ever going to be there. But what she's doing for other people now is incredible. Coco's Law is getting bigger and bigger now. There's more added into it. It's getting huge. She's going to save so many more other people from
the horrible experience.
Yeah, from the horrible experience. And as I said, other people have gained this fantastic law that under Nicole's name, but it doesn't change a single thing for me. It's fantastic, but it'll always be that bitter sweet moment forever, I think.
You're here, so we're in Strasbourg this week. You addressed the plenary this morning. Not only did you get 2 standing ovations, but your story, and it isn't just a story, as you said, but it was so powerful that there were hardened people sitting around me crying, which is not really hard to understand. Why are you here? And so why didn't you just go home and say, right, I did what I did, Brendan Helen was great, the government did what they did, that's my job as OXO. Why are you here now?
Okay, first reason is I'm not finished, and I still need to be kept busy, because you know that stinking thinking, if you're sitting at home, if I didn't do anything, you know, things comes into your head. I don't think Coco's Law should be only in Ireland. It should be not only Europe-wide, it should be worldwide, because everyone matters. Everyone is just as important as the person beside them. It should be there to protect adults, children, men, women, children. It doesn't matter who it is. What was the question?
So why, from a European perspective, why is it so important that what we did, what you did in Ireland, happens in the other 26 member states?
As I said, it's so important, because everyone's as important as everyone else, and everyone needs protection. The social media, the platforms, they're getting bigger and bigger, and so they need it. Not only in Ireland, they have that protection now, but European-wide, it's so important to protect the people of Europe as well.
There was one of the questions that came in on earlier, so I just might bring that in now. You're right insofar as that when we talked about the online platforms needed to be regulated, and we're trying to do that here, but things happen so fast that as soon as we pass a law, it's nearly out of date. But actually, one of the things is about the role of schools in teaching our children about how to protect themselves online and resilience. Do you think Is there a plan there?
Yes.
Do you see it in Ireland? Do you think it should be rolled out?
100%, and I'll tell you why. I have done talks with the guards. I've done a huge talk in Kerry and Templemore and Cavan with the chief. I was up there with the chief and inspectors chief and all the guards. They actually have put a programme together solely for Coco's Law. Nothing else is going to be added in it. It's a programme solely for Coco's Law. And I actually got a phone call there yesterday, and they're just going to arrange a date with me when I'm ready, but they want me to launch this Coco's Law programme. And this programme is solely for, well, probably not solely, but mainly aimed for schools. So the guards are going to be going in with this programme for what is Coco's Law, the consequences and stuff in every school in Ireland.
That's brilliant.
So I'm really the guards have been fantastic, absolutely fantastic. But to make up this programme solely called Coco's Law, the programme to go into schools, it's so important to teach it in schools.
But actually, so even after Coco's Law was enacted, I remember the advertising campaign that we did at home with this young man ringing his mum from the Garda station saying, Mum, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, it's the amount of people that don't realise that they're doing harm when they're doing enormous harm.
Yes.
So therefore we do need to be educated. And we might think they're sophisticated or whatever, but we do need to be told what's is acceptable, what's not acceptable. We have another question here. How are we making sure that the platforms take their responsibility? From a lady called Grania. So what we're trying to do, Grania, is to look at the platforms, look at the rules that we have, and make sure that those rules are enforced. But actually there's probably some fear that some of the laws that we've passed are so big that the enforcement is so great and it takes too long that people get frustrated and we don't see action happen fast enough. So we're reviewing those pieces of legislation now to make sure that we do adapt to a very fast-paced changing society, because as soon as we make a rule, the tech world has moved on, in jig time, and we have to make sure that our rules follow. Last question, and actually it's very much like here. So just before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask you, for parents, right, so for other mummies that are going through today what you went through and could see your beautiful child going through, what advice, other than obviously that that there's the comfort there of the law to try and protect them, what advice would you give other mummies, other daddies, other young people?
Do you know, I think I think it's very hard for parents, especially if someone is getting bullied and they're not talking about it, they're not speaking. It's very hard to know if you think it's just a teenager up in their room all day. Do you know, it can be hard for parents to know the depth of someone that's being bullied. I think with the law now, I think parents, if their kids are getting bullied and they're speaking about it, it's important to screenshot a lot of the stuff and have the evidence online to show this is happening. But what I didn't know, Regina, when the law first came out, is when parents were going down to the guards and they had all the evidence, they were saying, I want to make a statement. Or I want this looked at or whatever. That's all you're asking them to do, is make a statement. You're not requesting anything. And it was a detective superintendent that actually said to me, don't just go in and say, I want this looked at, or I want to make a statement. That the parents must go in and say, I want this investigated under Coco's Law. So now they're requesting something to be investigated under a law, and the guards have to look into it. And I say have to look into it as if they don't want to. They do want to. They've been brilliant, but it's so important for the parents to know. And I say this in parent talks and all, to make sure that you're requesting something that you want to this investigated under Coco's Law, because it is a law there now to do so. And not just go in and make a statement, because that's all you're doing. It doesn't go anywhere.
Only putting words on a page, it doesn't mean anything.
And I'd love kids, students to talk more, to be able to talk more about what they're going through, because when it gets deeper and deeper, it's so much hard to get back in. Yeah.
What's the one thing, there's 720 of us here in this Parliament, what's the one thing you would ask us to do, if you could?
Bring in a law. Do you know what, if it was called Coco's Law Europe,
Sounds good.
You know, Nicole always called me her mama bear. I would be the proudest mama bear if it was called Coco's Law Europe. I understand that sometimes they'll have to give a long name
after
Look, if they give a long name instead of Coco's Law Europe, which I'd prefer to Coco's Law Europe, but if they give a long name, even to put underneath the heading in honour of Nicole Coco Fox, I think she should be there up the top with her name. It's just, you know, if I had to say one thing to them, it's just don't wait. What are you waiting for? You know, as I said earlier, suicide, bullying can hit any family at any time. Don't wait until it's your loved one next. Do something about it now. Stop arguing about things. Try and agree on something and get it in sooner rather than later. The amount of people, imagine it's over in Ireland, imagine Coco's Law Europe. Imagine being that, imagine the amount of people that would benefit from
so,
Coco's
as
Law.
you say, I know from sitting in the room, the Parliament this morning, the emotion that was around that chamber, just listening to you, a tiny little woman with a huge mission for your beautiful child. So there is the challenge, not only for me and my 719 colleagues, but to everybody that's watching from every country across Europe. Let's make Coco's Law Europe a reality, and let's support Jackie in ensuring that her daughter's legacy lives on for generations to come and protects all of our young people and our children. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Not just for being here today, but for everything that you're doing, from the strength that you clearly have, and the love that you have for your beautiful child. And she is with you.
Yeah.
She definitely is with you.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you everybody for watching. Slán.
Thank you.